Mark Pearson was making his way back home during a busy commute when he passed a complete stranger. In that split second, his life changed forever after she falsely accused him of sexual assault.
Not only that, but the police altered the so-called evidence at his trial. So the reason I bring these case studies is to make you aware of what goes on, so you, hopefully, do not pass judgment on others. You hold fire, you question the police and the media, and finally, to make you aware enough that these things could happen to you. We are going to watch a bit of this interview, then read a newspaper article describing how the police altered video evidence to make him look as if the defendant was guilty of the crime he is alleged to have committed. The police had no witnesses, no forensics. The one piece of evidence was the video, and they altered that.
Well, on Friday, Mark was found not guilty, and he joins us now alongside Erin Pitsey, who has been his avid campaigner.
The day that this took place was December the 3rd, 2014, 6:40, your regular commute. The amount of times you walked through Waterloo station at that time, hundreds of times. Do you actually remember that day in particular?
No, nothing. It was just an ordinary day going home from work.
So the first you knew about any of this was later on. This was on the 5th of February 2015 when you got a knock at the door.
Sure.
And it was the police?
Yeah, that was 2 months after the so-called event.
And what did they say?
They just said, come in. There were 6 of them, what I now know is called a Trojan team. And they go around London picking people up who are wanted by the police, the transport police.
And so you must have been thinking, gosh, at some point, I mean, I'll be very fully cooperative, which you were. You went down to the police station, you gave them all the information that you had. Like you said, you don't remember this day in question because there were so many similar days like it. Nothing stuck out in your head. And you must have been just thinking at this point, common sense will prevail. Surely they'll realise that they have got the wrong person.
I mean, I had the option not to say anything. My solicitor, the duty solicitor, said you could either say no comment or you could be fully cooperative, which is what I did.
Now, you might have seen my other videos about whether to talk to the police in a police interview, so be warned. Take the solicitor's advice, which should usually be, say, no comment.
Because any normal person would assume that common sense would prevail. They would look at the CCTV footage which they had, compare that with what the woman was saying, and conclude that it was preposterous. It was just nonsense what she was saying.
So it was 4 months after that you were then phoned by your solicitor and he said, you're going to be charged.
Yeah.
In the UK, once you are charged with a crime, the police can list the case as solved, so there is a motivation to charge by the police. Even if the case is dropped, that is a matter for the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, and the court to drop the case, not the police. But it would still be listed as a solved case. And
then this is going to go to court?
That was the worst day of my life.
And there were no witnesses. There was no forensic evidence to this. The biggest bit of evidence that they actually had was the CCTV footage. And now, in her statement that she gave to the police, it was 2 to 3 seconds that this moment happened on passing.
Well, she said she's a well-known actress in her 60s, and claimed that you sexually assaulted her penetratively for 2 or 3 seconds, and this was followed, she insisted, by a violent blow to her left shoulder. And since this has all come to light, and we've all seen the CCTV footage, it is impossible for that to have happened.
It totally contradicts what she's saying. And what I don't understand is why the CPS, even the police, didn't see that. I mean, I hold the CPS more responsible because we actually had the CCTV footage analysed by an expert at Warwick University, a guy called Jacob Blythe, who I thank, and the CPS still proceeded with the trial.
The CPS have said in their statement there was sufficient evidence for this case to proceed to court and progress to a trial. We respect the decision of the jury. They're saying there is evidence. We've got the evidence here in front of us. So where is this going wrong? There seems to be a serious problem here, doesn't there?
It's a systemic problem with the CPS. There's something gone radically wrong with their processes.
Well, on analysis of that CCTV footage, you didn't break stride. You passed her, possibly without even brushing her. You passed her in half a second.
Sure.
And yet all of this is supposed to have taken place. You have a bag. You've got your hand on the strap with your right hand, I think, and then your left hand, you're carrying a newspaper. So you must have thought,
Even if
how
I
can
had more time, logistically, it's not possible to do what she accused me of. I would have to have walked forwards while leaning backwards.
So what has this done to you then? Because, I mean, you've lived with this for a year. You've been named. She remains anonymous, not named at all. So as a person, as a man, how does this feel to be accused of something that you haven't done?
I should have remained anonymous as well, although I chose eventually to give my name to the newspapers because I wanted to publicise this to stop it happening to other people. It should never have happened to me, and for all I know, it's happening to other people right now.
Well, it took the jury 90 minutes to decide, 9 women, 3 men, to reach their verdict.
We're going to return to the
reject
video where
her.
Mark's supporter describes how men are targeted. So there is a ray of hope, but let's first look at one piece of the so-called evidence. Prosecutors slowed down CCTV in case of commuter cleared of bizarre S assault on actress. The video led to Mark Pearson being charged with S assault after walking past woman in a busy railway station, but footage had been altered. Crucial CCTV footage, in fact it was the only evidence, in a bizarre S assault prosecution has been slowed down by the authorities to give a misleading impression of events, the defence solicitor in the case has revealed. As we've just seen, the Telegraph reported how Mark Pearson was accused of brushing against a well-known actress in a mass of train passengers at London's Waterloo station. He was cleared of S penetrating the woman, who cannot be named for legal reasons. After a jury rejected the claims, the crime had taken place for a brief half-second contact in a busy railway station. But it can now be disclosed that, to the concern of Mr. Pearson's legal team, the Crown Prosecution Service, the CPS, supplied original CCTV footage depicting the alleged assault in an amended format which gave the misleading impression of the incident. Mark Bagshaw, the defence solicitor, said the CCTV was served on us in a way in which it had been altered. The few seconds when my client walked past the alleged victim had been slowed down so it looked like he had more time to commit the alleged actions than in reality did have. Instead of 1 frame per second, it was running at 1 frame every 2 seconds. Mr. Pearson's legal team was forced to hire a specialist CCTV forensic expert to present the CCTV at the correct speed and then create a storyboard of the incident. The changes made in the CPS's version of the video were critical because the case hinged on whether Mr. Pearson could have committed the assault in that amount of time, and the CCTV gave the impression the window was twice as long as it was in reality. The lawyer said before the trial, this storyboard was served to the CPS with a request that they review their decision to go ahead with the prosecution. They went ahead anyway. If we had not taken the steps we had, the CCTV would have been presented to the jury at that amended speed. In the end, the prosecution did not rely on the CCTV at all, except to show that my client was at the station. The jury was only shown the CCTV as part of our case, and the first time the alleged victim saw the CCTV was in court, and her reaction was, "That can't be me in the CCTV." The defendant, who said he had endured a year-long Kafkaesque nightmare as a result of the complaint, blamed the CPS for forcing him to endure mental torture as a result of the charge. A jury at the Crown Court took 90 minutes to clear Mr. Pearson of the charge of S assault by penetration. In a 3-day trial, Mr. Bagshaw defending said the allegation could not have taken place in the half-second time frame shown on CCTV, especially as Mr. Pearson was carrying a newspaper in his left hand, the one he was alleged to have used in the assault, and holding his bag in his right. There were no witnesses, no forensic evidence, and the actress failed to pick out Mr. Pearson in an identity parade of video images following the alleged incident in December 2014. The actress, who was in her 60s and actually had a part in Game of Thrones, was wearing a coat and jacket and a thin dress over training pants following a yoga class, the jury heard. Mr. Pearson, who was traced by police from his Oyster travel card record, said, "One of the many frightening aspects is that this could have happened to anyone." And a few concluding paragraphs, "I hold the CPS more responsible because we had the CCTV footage analysed by an expert, and the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, still proceeded with the trial. There is something that has gone radically wrong with their processes." The case raises further questions about the CPS's decision-making in assault cases, which has been under intense scrutiny following a series of failures. Finally, bizarrely, a CPS spokesman said there was sufficient evidence for this case to proceed to court and to progress to trial. We respected the decision of the jury, so there was no evidence at all, just this tampered video. Even the alleged victim couldn't pick him out in an identity parade of video images. So this is the end to the video, where we have a campaigner for women's issues who's come to his assistance. So it's good to see some kind of fight back coming from those quarters. And I'll leave it to play out.
You're a campaigner for women's issues. You started the first domestic,
the first refuges in the world.
Centre in the world. But this time you're on the side of the man.
And I've always said it's generational family violence. It affects both men and women, particularly children. And in a case like this, we had a mutual friend. I didn't know Mark a year ago. We had a mutual friend, and she suggested that he phone me for help. And when he came to see me, I was terribly worried about him because he was in such a state of shock. And people die, they commit suicide in situations like this.
Totally true. I might do a video on the number of suicides that result from false allegations, but I need to do a bit of research first.
And you had to have help, didn't you? You had to go to the doctor.
I had therapy myself.
I'm not surprised.
No, I'm not surprised.
And looking at that evidence, what conclusion did you come to?
Well, I knew from the beginning, as soon as he told me what happened, it's a false allegation. And one of the problems is that the police, and I've been on other cases where they've said that they don't have the right to drop things at all. Anything to do with sex or sexual abuse and rape has to go to the CPS. And the CPS have unfortunately, a very, very jaundiced look at anything to do with men. And I've been watching men targeted now
Thank you
for
for
several
tuning
years.
in. Please do
dragged through
like
the
and
courts,
subscribe
humiliated.
and check out the other videos. If you want to support me, that would be a great help and much appreciated. You can buy me a coffee, follow the link in the description, or you can even check out the books, Mad as Hell Parts 1 and 2. Part 1 is the 899 days on bail before I was charged, and then Part 2 is the 7 months of the trial preparation before the case against me was dropped. The ebook and paperback is available on Amazon. Search for Mad as Hell by David M. Anderson, and you could probably go into a bookshop and they could order it from their systems as well. And of course, if you or a loved one are experiencing legal troubles yourself, I hope you found this channel and video useful, and the very best of luck. Thanks.